10,000 years from now, Mother Nature will no longer be kind to humanity, making the trees go full takeover mode and smack in the middle of it all. The rotten sea, or the world's most cursed swamp, spews toxic gas like it's trying to win an award for the most uninhabitable place ever. Breathing this nightmare air for over 5 minutes would mean instant game over, so humans had to level up in crafting next level gas masks not to perish immediately. One day, Nausicaa is casually strolling through a wasteland when she stumbles across a dead Omu. But since it's already out of the game, she thinks she might as well use that tanky exoskeleton. Being the resourceful queen, she sprinkles some gunpowder around its eye and whips out her shotgun to pop off the protective dome. Suddenly, she hears pure chaos, so she scrambles up to get a better look and sees an Omu rampaging through the area.
Oh, hell no!
Meanwhile, a dude sprints for his life with 2 ostriches in tow, trying to outrun the furious Omu. Nausicaa then moves closer with her glider and tries to de-escalate the situation. But the Omu doesn't plan to hold back. Then, she pulls out her unique whistle that basically works like a universal chill pill for forest creatures. The crisis is averted, and the Omu's eyes go from murderous red to serene blue, restoring the peace. She then finally gets a good look at the guy who just had the worst cardio session of his life. It turns out it's Yupa, the legendary swordsman, back from his year-and-a-half-long adventure. Then, something in Yupa's pocket is moving, which happens to be a tiny fox squirrel. Apparently, Yupa saw a bird trying to snack on it, so he pulled a hero move by shooting at the predator to save it. The bad news is that the gunshot was sent to the Omu into its little temper tantrum. The fox squirrel, clearly still in fight mode, immediately chomps Nausicaa, but she works her charm and earns its trust. Realizing she's the ultimate animal whisperer, the little dude decides to stick with her, and she names it Tito. After this wholesome bonding moment, Nausicaa greets Kai and Kiwi, who left with Yupa ages ago. With this happy reunion, Yupa realizes that Nausicaa has a mystical connection that makes every creature in the forest gravitate toward her. Nausicaa hops on her glider and zooms back to the village to throw a mini welcome party for Yupa. That night, Yupa links up with the local king, Nausicaa's dad. Then, Obaba, the village's wise old lady, suddenly drops some profound lore about a chosen one rocking a blue fit, touching down on a golden field, and somehow fixing humanity's beef with Mother Nature. She explains that the legendary eco-warrior is gonna save them all, but Yupa is not buying that BS because his genuine concern is figuring out if humanity is straight up doomed or if there's still hope. In the middle of the night, Nausicaa gets woken up by Mido, informing her about a Torumikian airship heading straight for disaster. Nausicaa then grabs her glider and takes off with her little buddy Tito to approach the airship. It's clear the airship is not having a good time because dozens of Omus are going full rage mode on it. The pilot is unaware of where he's flying, so he crashes the ship into a cliff, causing a massive explosion. Nausicaa then walks through the flames, hunting for survivors, until she finds a girl trapped under the rubble. She helps her out and finds out her name is Lostel, a princess from Fagete. But before anyone could even process what's happening, Lostel joins the afterlife. Then, from the burning wreckage emerges a giant, very angry bug called a shabu, ready to cause further disaster. The villagers freak out and immediately want to shoot it, but Nausicaa chimes in and whips out her whistle to lead the Ishabu back to the forest. The next morning, the valley residents are out doing damage control after last night's plane crash fiasco. Suddenly, they discover a giant freaking egg just chilling there, and Yupa notices it's kinda pulsating like the head of his man plot. He then tells some wild stories during his travels about an ancient monster snoozing under Fagete. Apparently, this beastie is a descendant of the god warriors, the big bad creatures that ran the world for thousands of years until they straight up turned into walls. Sorry, wrong anime. Only one of them hit snooze for 1,000 years, and now Torumikia, the ruthless military base, wants to draft it into their army. Meanwhile, the villagers are just trying to clean up the mess from last night's disaster when Torumikian airships roll up uninvited. Nausicaa orders everyone to hide in the castle before she books it to her dad's quarters. However, she hears gunshots, and she runs to the tower only to find out that her dad is dead. Nausicaa goes full action hero mode, wrecking the soldiers on sight. But the big boss arrives. She then gears up to absolutely obliterate them, but Yupa stops her not to let everyone get mass deleted. Kashana, the commander of the Torumikian army, enters and explains that she's not there to fight. She gives this whole speech about uniting the people and bringing peace to the land, saying she's gonna eat the rotten sea out of existence. However, Obaba interrupts, dropping a hard fact that every time someone tries to destroy the rotten sea, The Omas get mad and go full apocalypse mode, ready to wipe everything off the map. Kashana's advisor, Kirotoa, tells Obaba to shut her stinky mouth that smells like an anime convention.
Emotional damage!
Obaba then exposes him as the real villain, who Isekai the king. The villagers are ready to riot, but Nausicaa tells everyone to chill before things get worse. The following day, the squad gets ready to bounce, and Yupa tells Mito that he's gonna chill in the village to make sure nobody does anything dumb. Meanwhile, Nausicaa hops on the battleship with Tito, promising her people she'll be back ASAP. Barely 5 minutes in the air, the enemy appears with the pilot straight up GTA style taking out one of Toromikia's airships. Then, like a tragic game of dominoes, the second ship gets hit and crashes into the third, serving a whole Michael Bay explosion moment. Only the main aircraft is vibing in the sky, but not for long because it also gets dunked on. Realizing the situation, Nausicaa and Mito sprint to the emergency escape plane, but Kashana appears last second and hijacks their getaway. The princess then tells Kashana and the old dude to mask up cause they're about to fly over the toxic forest. Below the clouds, she spots 5 homies from the Valley of the Wind, who actually survived the mayhem. They land in a river deep in the forest, and instead of being grateful, or whatever, Kashana immediately power trips, pulling a gun on Nausicaa. However, the bigger problems are brewing because the animals in the forest are mad. Something's definitely off, so the princess tells everyone to buckle up cause they need to peace out. But the army commander starts shooting and yelling about how she's in charge. Suddenly, the Omas start crawling out of the river. Nausicaa tries to calm them down but gets wrapped up in their tentacles. Suddenly, she's hit with a vision of mysterious light shining from a giant tree, but she has no clue what it means. The Omas decide they're over it, so their eyes go full rage mode and they storm off deeper into the forest with a whole army of angry creatures. Nausicaa jumps on her glider and zooms after them, trying to figure out what is happening. Meanwhile, on the other side of the forest, some random dude is absolutely struggling to run away from monster bugs like it's a survival horror game. He's cornered, so he eats himself off a cliff where even more nightmare creatures are waiting. Right before he gets chomped by a flying centipede of doom, Nausicaa saves him just in time. She dodges like a pro, but the centipede clips her glider and they go down real hard. The dude crawls over to find Nausicaa straight up unconscious, only to discover they are sinking in a quicksand. Nausicaa wakes up in some totally new underground spot, and Tito's still with her. She's shook cause she has never seen that place before. Then the guy she saved is Ospel, Prince of Phagite, who is also the twin brother of Lost Hell. Ospel explains that they got dragged under the rotten sea, but the air down there is actually clean. Nausicaa then realizes that the ground is covered in dust from trees that literally turn to stones. After a long day of nearly dying like 50 times, they patch up the glider and call it a day. Meanwhile, in the Valley of the Wind, the army was pulling an all-nighter to resurrect this ancient mega creature called the God Warrior. They plan to use it as their ultimate battle flex against the forest creatures. On the other hand, Yupa heads over, expecting a chill reunion, but Kashana's already there with the villagers, vibing like she owns the place. Yupa tells them not to unleash Bioapocalypse 2.0 and asks them to leave. But Kashana is committed to her villain arc and insists she's nuking the forest and the rotten sea. While they're arguing, some random dudes burst in, absolutely panicked, yelling that killer tree spores are in the village, dropping toxic fumes like an overpowered gas attack. Seeing that the trees are already infected, Obaba, the classic boomer, tells everyone they are doomed. Meanwhile, Nausicaa and Ospel take their flying eco-tour over the forest, only to find the village of Phagite looking like it lost a boss battle. Angry forest creatures overrun the place, and the squad of survivors lands dramatically and spills the tea. Phagite is about to attack the Valley of the Wind. They plan to piss off the forest monsters and send them stampeding toward the valley. Nausicaa quickly plans to stop that, but she's too late because the monsters are already on their way, fueled by pure unfiltered rage. Back in the Valley of the Wind, the villagers are not having it, so the 3 old dudes hijack a battle tank and start blasting the enemies. They blow up the bridge, cut off the enemy's reinforcements, and start raining down explosives while the villagers heat themselves into a safe area. On the other hand, up in the sky, fighter planes are patrolling like it's the world's worst security team. Meanwhile, Nausicaa and Tito are locked in a pantry when a mysterious woman and girl appear. Turns out, it's Ospel's mom, and they pull a sneaky identity swap so Nausicaa can dip undetected. While everyone is playing dress up, the Phagite folks are desperately trying to dodge attacks by flying into the clouds. Unfortunately, Mother Nature had other plans, sending them a big storm, a big turbulence, and a big disaster. Oswald then helps Nausicaa prep her glider for takeoff, but another enemy soldier shows up. He buys her some time to launch her glider, but the enemy spots her and starts chasing her relentlessly. Lucky for her, Mito's airship chimes in, dropping bombs on the enemy like it's an action movie finale. Yupa's on board too, and Nausicaa asks him to help the people of Fagete. Mito then hits turbo mode and speeds back to the valley because, at this point, everything is on fire, and nobody is having a good time. Nausicaa and the squad are flying over the Dead Sea, literally under the clouds, but then a whole horde of angry Omas charging straight for the Valley of the Wind. She dips out quickly to figure out what's making these giant bug things lose their minds, only to find a Fagete airship using a wounded baby Omu as bait. Nausicaa then hops on her glider and zooms over while Mito heads back to the Valley of the Wind, where things are about to go full on Call of Duty. Just as things are about to pop off, Kushana appears and stops the impending attack. Suddenly, a whole stampede of super angry Omas is en route, and Mito tells everyone to skedaddle to higher ground. Back to Nausicaa, she tries to reason with the guys on the airship, but they start attacking her. She dodges most of their shots, but just as she reaches the airship, she gets hit. Still, she manages to free the baby Omu, and even though she's hurt, she still gets close to the little guy, who's still fuming. The Omu tries to flee across the lake, but the water is straight up acid, so Nausicaa stops it, making her dress turn blue after drenching from the Omus blood. Nausicaa touches the acid instead, and her pain makes the little dude realize that she's actually trying to save its life. The rage then disappears, and the baby Omu heals Nausicaa with its tentacles. However, the Omu stampede is still full send toward the village, so Nausicaa pulls out a bluff and tells the guys they better take the baby to the battlefield or else. As they dip, Kushana makes a dramatic entrance, standing on a whole tank like some final boss, because behind her is a half-baked ancient giant warrior. It's literally decomposing in real time, but it lets out a blast of fire that nukes hundreds of Omas, making them even madder. When it blasts its second attack, the thing just falls apart, and the humans are officially on their own. Meanwhile, Nausicaa arrives with the baby Omu, trying to de-escalate the situation. But the Omas are in full Hulk smash mode and eat both her and the baby aside. Amidst their impending doom, Yupa notices that the Omas' angry red eyes are turning blue. They're finally calming down after Nausicaa sacrificed herself to save the baby Omu. The little Omu crawls over her dead body, and they all start resurrecting her. They raise Nausicaa with their golden tentacles, bringing her back to life. She then wakes up, and she stands up, and just like the ancient prophecy predicted, she's literally walking through a golden field with an outfit that is bluer than blue.